Our next speaker is Dan Sachs. He's from the Great White North, co-founder and CEO of the Canadian Space Mining Corporation. He's an entrepreneur and angel investor with a deep background in real estate investment, finance, and development, and a strong acumen in both private and public capital markets. He's actively participated in over $4 billion of real estate deals across Canada, the USA, and Germany. Prior to CSMC, Daniel founded Sensi Properties, the first cannabis real estate investment company in Canada. Daniel has a passion for bleeding edge industries, obviously with high degrees of uncertainty. He's a director of Bordeaux Properties and advisor to BIGG Digital Assets, Hive, and Fieldhouse. He has a master's degree in real estate from Cornell and a BA in economics from Dalhousie.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very honored to be here. I'm going to attempt to share my a screen at this point. So I'll try and keep this relatively quick and timely. I'm certainly not one to be giving with any qualifications to be giving a technical presentation. So I've really focused around kind of the economic development story, both from a Canadian perspective as well, from a global perspective here. So the Canadian Space Mining Corp is a lunar regolith mining corp. We were founded to process water and for fuel in situ, as well as oxygen and kind of other things. We think in getting there to building a mine on the moon, along the way, we have to build a lot of the infrastructure in the gaps that we see in the market. And in doing so, we think we can accelerate the entire kind of ex-Terran and lunar economy, benefiting humanity for generations to come. So, you gave it a great introduction to me. My partner is Dieter McPherson. He was most recently with Aurora Cannabis. He came in when it was about kind of 60 people and about to go bankrupt as a public company, took it and scaled it to 3,000 people, building the largest, most sophisticated agriculture facilities on the planet, teaching himself, a mix of kind of automation, robotics, project management, which fundamentally we believe that a lot of this is about project management and systems engineering, not about kind of new technology. We think a lot of the that already exists. Our experience within the cannabis industry may be, a bit of an odd duckling, but quite frankly, we think there was a lot of regulatory uncertainty within that industry, and that skill is quite applicable. Team-wise, we brought in Mark Donato, who's the former COO of MDA, was known as a turnaround guy within MDA, turning around their Montreal and their Brampton facilities when they were about to go bust. He's done and led kind of some of the largest, most famous space projects in Canadian history, including, Canadarm2, Canadarm3 bid, the Mars rover that was built for the CSA, among others. So we think there's a lot of kind of depth there and certainly engineering talent to build around. Our advisors include the former head of autonomous mining or emerging technologies for Volvo Construction Equipment, one of the co-founders of the X Prize, former chief technologist at NASA, and the former CFO and director of MDA, among others. So we think that, we've got a great orbit around us of people. We are a young startup, so we've been around for about a year and are just in the process of kind of scaling. Values wise, that's an important thing for us, certainly first and kind of foremost. So we value being pragmatic, first of all. This is not about running kind of science experiments, and this is not about, trying to find the best way of doing things. It's actually just about getting stuff done. We think really this is an implementation problem kind of more than anything. Trust and transparency is key. It's key for us to be working with partners. This is not something we're going to do alone, so it takes a village. This is about us working with others, both domestically, internationally, at multiple levels, and all are welcome. We think that one of the key strengths of Canada is its ability to work with other countries, and we think that is a strength here. And then treading lightly, we think it's important that a mining, resource extraction space be done in the most responsible way, most sustainable way possible. And we really think that's an area Canada can lead in, an area that, it has led in within the mining industry. So as you all know, we're returning, to the moon to stay in 2024. And we think that Canada can play a key role there within resources and infrastructure. We're really focused on the moon because quite frankly, we think that the gravity facet, of microgravity, of 1/6 gravity, allows it to be scalable in the way that asteroid mining is not scalable kind of at this time. It allows us to adapt Earth mining technologies and also to build and develop infrastructure that remains there in a way. It's a known body, and there's a lot that we know about it. There's obviously a lot that we don't know. That's what we think is kind of one of the biggest areas of opportunity, and then there's new rules, with Artemis, countries legalizing, and there's really kind of a snowball effect happening that we can see that the inertia is kind of moving in the right direction. There is not the regulatory clarity that is needed now, but it's clear that that's happening, and certainly with what's happening with the U.S., China, and everything like that, it's going to happen in the next couple of years. I don't know how that works, but we're going to have to kind of navigate that. So timelines, previous kind of space mining startups, the last generation, a lot of the reason that they went bust and was quite frankly because the timing just didn't make sense from an investment capital perspective. And now within this window where NASA wants to start mining in 2025, the Chinese are establishing a moon base in 2025. And we're looking at building a moon mine in kind of 2030 and working back from that date. We think this is actually a reasonable investment horizon in a way that it wasn't previously. If it was 5 years ago, the investment horizon was a little long, and now it starts to make sense. Quite frankly, these are aggressive timelines, even for mining on Earth. So, there's a lot of pressure there, and certainly it's a big challenge, which is what we like. So our approach is really, almost like a private space agency to work with academic institutions for tech transfer, R&D, prototyping, utilizing infrastructure that already exists in laboratories, et cetera, and technology solutions that have been problem solved, but need to be scaled, working with industry and strategic partners. So we're out there looking for and talking to strategic partners. And then, of course, working with governments and various space agencies in order to go after this. This is something that is larger than any one group. And so this is really about cooperation. And that's really kind of our business model. So, from a phase mission timeline, what we're looking at is, we were in kind of startup phase over the past year, forming, advisory team partnerships. We keep, bringing on people because fundamentally this is, a capital and a human capital problem. We need to throw the right brains at it and have the money to fund that. And then 2023, we're working towards our first mission, which is a survey mission, identifying key points of interest. And then phase 2 was really kind of a rover mission, if you want to call it. I would call it a mining equipment mission, to kind of beta test that technology. Ideally, we want to kind of, perfect some sort of extraction there at some level, some micro level. So, it could be a gram of water. It doesn't need to be, 500 liters of water to prove out those technologies within that value chain, and then working back again from that 2030 operating date. So Canada's leading position, really Canada is kind of the leader globally within the mining industry now. So there's a ton of depth of human capital and expertise, probably more so than anywhere else on the planet. We think long-term that positions Canada to succeed here. We are obviously late to the game as a country within space mining, but from a long-term view, we're okay with that. We have tons of aerospace expertise, and particularly in space robotics, which we think plays quite well to what needs to get done here. And then, it needs to be said that Canada's oil and gas industry has gone completely sideways, as I'm sure, many of you know. So we see a lot of stranded human capital as well as capital equipment that can be really redeployed and retooled. That's part of that story here. And a lot of those people have worked on building some of the largest and most complex infrastructure projects on the planet. And so we do think there's the right elements there. And then, Canada is home to the largest capital markets for mining in the world. This is where you get mining financed right now. There are other places as well, but it is really the dominant place. And there are structures, legal structures within that, like flow through shares, that are quite beneficial to financing that industry and provide a strategic advantage. We think that those can be kind of updated, and us and others within the country are working on adapting those tax structures to apply to this industry, which we think could help accelerate the entire industry. And that's really our goal here, is not to be the one player, but to accelerate everything that is happening in the lunar environment, and certainly within the kind of ex-Terran economy. So, this really aligns kind of national interest, and this applies both to Canada as well as kind of other countries around the world. We fundamentally believe that, like, the technologies related to space mining, so solar power, battery storage, water processing, hydrogen storage, these are all fundamentally the same technologies for fighting the climate crisis of the kind of new economy, et cetera. And then in a global competitiveness perspective, really, the same kind of thing. In Canada, we need to continue investing within the mining industry to keep that competitive. But all of the stuff that's going to happen with space mining, involves robotics, AI, et cetera, all the things that countries will want to be competitive in kind of going forward, and are crucial areas to kind of invest in. Within Canada, it kind of plays to our strengths. It makes a lot of sense for the government to invest in space resources, as I'll get to in kind of the next slide. We think there's this diverse economic impact. So, I call it the galactic supercluster effect. I mean, if you look at kind of space resources and all it represents, these are really kind of key, crucial areas of the economy over not the next couple of years, but the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So it provides a great flow in to develop all of these areas and expertise and human capital in these areas from a global perspective, and to allow countries to stay competitive kind of on a go-forward basis. So space mining is really diverse. It is not just one thing. It's interdisciplinary, and that's, I think, from an economic development standpoint, really what makes it fascinating. So as a path forward, we're all about a collaboration and cooperation. So we think, obviously, nothing gets done alone in space. So it's about the cooperation and collaboration. The ISRU value chain is really large and complex. And so, this is a world problem we all need to solve. This isn't a problem for any one country. This is a problem for humanity. All of the space businesses like additive manufacturing, space hotels, tourism, all of this stuff is going to require resources and a new supply chain off planet. Most likely in the near term, that's coming from the moon, right? So it's not just water and oxygen. At later points, it's going to be, other base materials, aluminum, silicon, titanium, et cetera, that are going to be needed for manufacturing in space and for building out that new supply chain. So this is a big problem to be solved for all of humanity. Interoperability and design standards, like, we have to work together to ensure that we are creating systems that work collaboratively and cooperatively. It would be a huge mistake to not ensure that we have proper design standards for interoperability on a go-forward basis. We should be learning the lessons of the past in space, and ensuring that we can maximize interoperability where it makes sense. And then, back to that kind of retooling oil and gas, we think a lot of this at a global level, countries and companies should think about leveraging and retooling existing industries and existing infrastructure. There's a lot of stuff out there that could be applicable to space mining that may not logically be connected to space mining right now, but can be. And we think that's a part of this story. This is about kind of refurbishing existing industries and retooling them on a new goal. We'll just finish with this quote: "Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood." That's by Daniel Burnham. He is the architect of the Flatiron Building in New York, as well as Millennium Park in Chicago. We're going big and going big for a reason. This is a key problem for humanity, and we think it's in everyone's interest to solve. With that, I will stop sharing my screen. feel free to reach out. We're looking for partners. We're looking for capital. We're looking for people. We'd love to work with any and all of you.
That's great, Daniel. Very interesting presentation. I agree. Canada has a lot of potential for this because of their long history of mining. And Australia does too.